What's happening, party people? Yes, we are still on our Western USA help tour. We are still in Las Vegas, Nevada. We are headed west towards Southern Cal after this. Not sure how long I'll be in Southern Cal, but once I get done there, I will be headed north up towards the Bay Area, up around Sacramento, and then from there into the Oregon area. So if you need my help and you would like to see me and get some stuff done, have a meet and greet, different things like that, make sure you send me a text or call me so I can ensure that you are in the schedule. So within the next day or two, I'm going to contact the next three people that I'm going to meet in Southern Cal, and then we'll again head north from there. Trying to make sure we don't miss anybody, delivering parts, helping people get work done, manual conversions, cylinder head jobs, different stuff like that. So we're looking forward to it. Man, the weather in Vegas last couple of days has been pretty chilly, especially right now. Temperature's kind of low. The wind is outrageous, and it is freezing here in Vegas. I got people accusing me of bringing Cincinnati weather down here, so hopefully they won't get more aggressive than the accusations. Strange thing happened yesterday. I was telling you guys about my divorce with Verizon, and this bill and their inability to help me get this bill amount under control caused me to do a audit of my bill. So I downloaded the bill, started going through this thing line by line, and it appears that they had 3 or 4 line charges on my account, which was causing this bill to be outrageous. And these folks, man, they would not help me on the phone. I spent probably 8 hours in the last couple of weeks trying to get this thing under control. And yesterday they had me speaking with somebody that I don't know what kind of broken English it was, but it was horrible. I asked to speak to somebody else twice, and that lady just would not give me to somebody else. And when we finally got to the point where she decided she couldn't help me, she gave me somebody else with some horrible broken English. I was able to understand the second one. However, because I had ported my phone over to T-Mobile, she said she had to send me some push notification that wouldn't work because my line had been moved. So anyway, I finally hung up with her because she couldn't help me. I went down to a store here in Las Vegas. We're staying in the Palace Station Casino Hotel. Right down the street, there's a Verizon store. Man, I walked in there. This guy named Brandon, he helped me quick, fast, and in a hurry. I explained to him that, man, I had been a customer of Verizon for nearly 35 years. I have been giving you folks business for 35 years. Now, all of a sudden, you want me to pay child support for some kids that ain't mine. Yeah, it's just not fair. I'm not doing it. So I explained that to him, and he helped me so quick and efficiently. I mean, within 20 minutes, I was in and out of there. And he shut down these extra lines. He put in a request for me to be refunded for those lines because they clearly had no usage on them from the time they had converted my account a couple months ago. So hopefully I'll be getting that credit and get the rest of this account closed down so I can move on. If you given somebody business for 35 years, you would think they would treat you decently when it was time for you to make some other kind of business decision, and then maybe you'd come back. But no, they treat you like a bitter divorced spouse or whatever, so you never want to go back. It just doesn't make sense. Make it make sense. Anyway, this video here, I was still in Lincoln, Nebraska, working on that BMW. I made some good traction on that. I hope you enjoy these clips, and hey, I hope to see you soon if you're in the Western USA and you need my help. So I'm here putting in another dash for someone with the kit that you can get on Amazon. And then I got to finish a manual conversion. And then I got to do a couple other tidbits of things. And then we'll be moving on. So hang tight. No, I don't know when I'll be there, but I do plan to be there ASAP. Thanks for watching. Hope you have a great day. Welcome to Hanging Out with Robert. That's me. This video contains things that I encounter throughout the day. If for some reason I complete a task and you would like to see the details, you can click on the link in the description area below. This video also contains tips and tricks that I learned throughout the years. I plan on leaving this video accessible for about 30 days. After that, you can view it through my Patreon account. Thank you very much for watching. Kicking off the Tinker Day. First up is try to figure out where this leak is. I think it's a rear main seal leak. Some of the BMW guys said, man, look how clean that diff is now. Clean and dry. Some of the BMW's guys said it could be the oil pan leaking right out of this seam of the transmission. They said there's some kind of window you could see where it's coming from, but I don't see that. I do not see that. So what I'm going to do is take the car outside and wash it. Then I'm going to bring it back in here and remove this part of this transmission deal and see if I could tell from there if the back of this oil pan is leaking. But I do need to get this car cleaned up so that I can polish it tomorrow. So let me get going on that. All right, looks like I got a power washer here. I can see if I can get that started. Some water hose over there. I just need to find a bucket and some soap. Look like there's some stuff over there I may be able to use. So let's get cracking. Get this car out here. I seen the spigot outside the door. I'm gonna put my phone on the charger because it is dying. Well, the car wash is over, and I intended to plug my phone in while that was happening, but I didn't. So you see tree sap spots like that. All these surface scratches and swirls on it from the years of abuse. The trunk is really bad. People must have been dragging stuff across this trunk. So I'm gonna polish that later on after I get done with the work, real work, and see how nice I can get it. But this black will pop. Got the wheel semi-clean. I didn't want to spend too much time on it. It's because that's not what I'm here for, but hey, let's get it back inside and check this leak by the transmission. Let's get this thing back up on the lift and see if we can pinpoint this oil leak down by the rear main seal. It's all cleaned and dried. Well, strange thing happened. After fiddling around with that fuel sending unit on the driver's side under the seat, the fuel gauge appears to be working now. It's a little erratic, but still seems to be working. So next up, remove this cover and see if we could see where this leak is coming from. So I'm gonna take this panel off here, and I noticed that there's a bolt under there that'll be a little bit of a challenge with this sway bar in the way. So I took this bolt out of the sway bar here. It's a 13 on the bottom, a 13 on top. I'm gonna do the same there. And I took it loose from here. So hopefully when I get those 3 points loose, I could move it back and out of the way. It'll pivot back and out of the way so I can get to that bolt real easy. So let me continue to do that. And then I cracked these bolts loose. They're 12 millimeter. Okay, this anti-sway bar bushing is mounted here and this bolt here. So I need to remove that bolt as well on both sides to get this to flop around like I want it to. I got that out of the control arm and pulled forward. Now I have easy access to all 4 of these bolts that hold this plate on here. Well, there's more to this than I expected because I thought I could pull these 4 bolts and get this down. However, now I got these E-torques. They looks like E12s maybe. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 4 of those. It looks like I can stop here. 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll let this plate down. So let me go ahead and pull those. I hope I got my E-bits with me. Remove these 4 E10s. That's what's on the socket. It's an E10 socket, and that thing fell right down. The next one over there didn't need to be pulled, but that looked like an E16. So now I can see this oil leak, and be honest with you, I still can't tell if it's an oil pan or a rear main seal. So I'm gonna do the oil pan and hope that's it. So I got the plate down. I got a bunch of oil here, but I can't tell if the oil's from a rear main seal or this oil pan gasket. So I'm going to be taking down this oil pan and resealing it, and hopefully that will stop my leak. And if not, I'll be pulling the transmission. So let's get started getting this oil pan down. It looks like, or I was told, I'm gonna have to lift the engine up a little bit to get the pan out of here. So let me investigate that and get started. Nice to have a lift do this stuff. There's an incredible video on doing this, so I am not gonna repeat that video. However, man, it looks like an oil level sensor there on this oil pan. Is that a plug for it right there? It looks like that's a plug for it. Anyway, first thing I'm gonna do is go up top and install the engine support bar I just purchased from Harbor Freight. So let's do that, then come down here, drain the oil, disconnect the mounts, disconnect this ground strap, make sure the battery's disconnected, and anything else that the guy recommends in the video. So let me get cracking. I have the oil draining. I took that mount bolt out there, 17 millimeter. The oil drain bolt was 17 millimeter. That bolt there for that mount was 17 millimeter. I'm gonna take this ground off here and figure out how to get that sensor unplugged. It looks like it has a connection there I can unplug. So I'm causing myself a little struggle. I got all the bolts out that I could see except for this one over the steering rack. What I should have done is left an easy access bolt in, then take that bolt out. So I'm gonna put a bolt back in here, get this pan off of that bolt, turn that bolt out, then I'm gonna remove that bolt, and my pan will be loose. Another couple of tips you want to know is, one, take this ground strap off before you take all these screws off. It's easier to break this loose when the pan is bolted to the bottom of the engine. Now my oil level sensor was plugged into that plug up there, and that plug did have a release tab on it. So I released that release tab and the plug fell out. So now I should be close to this pan coming down, but as you may have seen in a couple of videos or a couple of instructions, you need to unbolt the oil pickup. So I need to get that squared away in my head. I think there may be a couple bolts there for that, and a bolt or two up there for that. So let me get that sorted out and remove those so I can jack the engine up a little bit and get this pan out, because I understand that hangs down so far that you can't get the pan out with that there. I tried to jack the engine up, and man, it doesn't seem like it wanted to go up. It seemed like something was holding it down. I got like barely any space there But I think these two bolts there and this one bolt there are the bolts I need to take out to get this oil pickup fall into the pan. And I believe they're 14 millimeters. So let me check that and pick it up from there. But man, it just felt like that thing did not want to lift up with my engine support bar. It actually seemed like my bar bowed a little bit down. All right, I have the pan down. I had to get it at least that high. So about 1 inch on that side, 3/4 of an inch on this side, to get the pan high enough to get it to come back under here. Now I don't know if you could reach under here and push this up. I don't know what this is for. This is some kind of plunger thing, but that was stopping the pan from coming out. So you could reach your hand up there and push that in. And I have no idea what that piece is right there, or where it goes when it goes back in. That oil pickup, that's a strange one on me, because it's right along this hole. Okay, it has to get locked into that hole when you put it back together. So that looks like it's gonna be a task. So now I gotta clean the bottom of the surface of the block, clean out the oil pan. Most of the gasket stayed on the block. I see the gasket was broken there. That's probably where most of my leaking was happening. Yeah, look at that. That gasket was pretty busted right there. So I imagine that's where my leak was, making me think I had a rear main seal leak. We're gonna clean this up and put the new gasket on there, probably some gasket maker, and get this back together. So here's the oil pan over at the parts washer. I guess that's the level sensor thing. I'm gonna brush that off. I'm not gonna wet that with the parts washer. No sludge in the pan, which is great. A little bit of tarnish. And I'm gonna clean off the mating surface so I can put the gasket on there, clean up the pan, and get this thing installed. Let's keep moving. Well, folks, we are tapping out, calling it a night, and that's the culprit. That gasket was probably never put on right. Leaked the whole time. It's got a bend in it, causing it to be off of the flat surface. Got to be more careful. Kicking off the Tinker Day. I adjusted my wiper on this XC90 because it was, I thought, hitting too low. Now it's hitting too high. I can hear it touching the paint up here. So I'm gonna try to lower this 1 notch and see what happens. I don't know if there's an in-between those two settings or not. And I reset it. I'm about 1 inch off the trim there. Hopefully I'm in a spline and it will not touch my body up here. I don't know if I can actually feel a little scuff in my paint or a piece of rust or what going on there. Yeah, I feel something else here too. I don't know if this is dirt or what. Got some kind of buildup in here. Maybe, I don't think my wiper reaches way up here. Doesn't look like it, but maybe it has. Let me wipe it and see where it's going to. Do. Yes, it's still parked about 1 inch from there, and it stopped about right here on the windshield. So it did not come over this last 4 or 5 inches. So I'm gonna leave it there because I don't want it hitting no area down there, and I don't want it hitting no area up here. You can see where it was before. It has actually deformed the plastic in this trim right here. It was hitting down here too low and has that trim a little damaged. I'm gonna leave it there. Next up for the day, We already got this oil pan spick and span that is ready to go back up. We need to get the belly of the engine, the bottom part of the engine, the mating surface of this cleaned up. I failed to pull this forward and catch this oil, so let me go get some sand or oil absorbent rocks to clean that up and start cleaning the bottom of this engine off. So just a refresher, the gasket there I don't think was ever on properly. It took a turn right there and it was pushed in, and over the years that I guess being stressed, it cracked and broke apart. The other areas where it was in properly, it didn't do that. However, there is a spot here where I don't know if it was too tight or what, but it is cracked and split there. Not enough to cause a leak, but it is cracked and split. So I'm gonna cut this off of here, mostly with a razor blade, clean this surface up, and get ready to install the new gasket on the cleaned up pan. Here's the gasket I have. Man, this thing is thick, but I'm gonna go ahead and use some gasket maker on it anyway. Let me get this thing prepped to go on. Well, I initially put the gasket on the pan upside down. I had the writing up, but the writing goes down. You'll know because your holes won't align. So here I am. I'm gonna put a little bit of gasket maker on this side, and then I'm gonna wipe the bottom of the engine down with some brake parts cleaner and get this thing installed. I think I got the hardest part of this process done, and that's blindly guiding that oil pump part up into the block. It only will fit one way. I would torque those bolts to, man, let's say 18 foot-pounds, and then get this gasket started. Be real careful you don't knock this gasket loose. As you can see, I don't even have it lined up properly. This gasket that I got from FCP, I don't know how anybody could mess that up, but I guess everything's possible. Make sure your gasket is in place. Get your screws lined up and start all your screws by finger. Snug it. Let your sealant cure if you're using sealant. I think it's supposed to cure for an hour, and then you should torque it. I have the pan in place. I guess I could plug in this connection and hook up the ground, but I'm gonna wait till I torque it. They say wait an hour because I put sealant on there, even though I didn't do a bead, I just smeared it on there. I'm gonna wait an hour. I'm gonna torque it to like 5 foot-pounds, these tiny screws, 5 or 6 foot-pounds. So 6 foot-pounds, that'll be 72 inch-pounds. I'm gonna stagger it around and torque them, and then I'm gonna put this bolt on the ground, and I'm gonna go ahead and plug this float in now. And after I get it torqued, I'll put this panel. But in the meantime, I got suspension parts, so I'm gonna do these front struts now so that I can return that tool to AutoZone. I can also lower this, but I think I'm gonna keep it up until I get this torque. Give me some space on these bolts. I'm gonna remove the wheel, then I'm gonna start disconnecting stuff to replace this strut. I'm gonna check the internet real quick, make sure there's nothing I need to watch out for. I think I also have brake parts for this front end. I took the wheel off, I took the brake caliper bolts off, removed the brake calipers. They're both 19 millimeters. Next, I'm gonna unhook these wires, ABS wires, and probably the sensor from this knuckle. It looks like it has a 5 millimeter there, so let me work on that. Move the ABS sensor over there. I really massage that out by hand. I got it started by tapping out, massage it out by hand. Do not want to damage that or these wires. Even though the coating is messed up, you don't want to make it any worse than that. So we already disconnected this anti-sway bar. You can see there that this control arm is worn out, so we're going to replace the control arm. Next, we're going to remove that bolt there. It looks like a 17. And remove this bolt over here. Looks like 17 or 18. So let me get those out and let you know what they are. Okay, I am trying to get this control arm down. But the nut up there is spinning on me. So I got my sledgehammer and I beat that knuckle till that came loose. Now I'm gonna pry down on this arm to try to stop that screw from turning and that nut to come off. Let me see if I got a 22mm ratchet so I can watch it. That method did work. The control arm is loose. I need to pull it out of there. That bushing doesn't look too bad, but I could remove those 2 bolts, make this easier. But let me see if I could get this to come down just a little bit more. Doesn't look like that's gonna happen. I'm gonna remove those 2 bolts so this whole thing comes down. I tapped on this knuckle until this arm came loose. I did not buy a new one of those, but that may be leaking a little bit. I'll wipe it off, make sure. Now I can go up top and take the bolts out of the top of the strut and remove it. Then work on replacing it. Since I didn't need any power, I went on ahead and disconnected the battery. We're gonna have to let that thing sit a day before we start the car, add fluids. I took those 3 nuts off of the strut, lowered the strut out. Now I need to put the spring compressors on here and take this nut loose up here so I can get that shock out of there and put the new one in. To my surprise, I have these springs compressed almost all the way in, and I still don't have any slack, top or bottom, for these springs. So this may be a mess coming apart. Let me continue. I'm gonna take them all the way down as far as I can. I think they're already on these pins, so no, I'm not gonna take them down any further. Let me pop this bolt out of the end and hopefully I can get this strut out. That bump stop is loose off the top of there, so I'll probably be okay. I got a thin-walled 19 I'm gonna try to impact that off with. I had to use a deep thin-walled 19 to get that out. I got the nut here, self-locking nut. I got this mount here. I got this washer here. And I need to get this off of there. Looks like it's jammed on a little bit. I'm gonna tap on that with the hammer. And then I'm gonna work on pulling the springs off and getting the shock out of the tube there. I don't think this shock is mounted in there, but we'll see. Pretty sure that's my front strut, so this comes out of here. Let me pop this end off, get the spring off, and work on getting this tube out of that tube. Well, my alarm just went off for me to torque my oil pan down, so let me do that and then continue back on these struts. And I'm gonna go to 6 foot-pounds, which is 72 inch-pounds. Alas, oil pan, oh, I thought it was done. I gotta hook up this ground wire and this oil level sensor. Then it'll be done. And we can focus on the front suspension and struts. Whoop, whoop. Tighten that down so that this could be a good ground. We're all done with that. That plug was harder to get in than I thought. So, oh, let me put this cover plate back on and lower this engine down. I may not lower this on these mounts right now because I may be replacing some of that with the suspension. I had to tap and pry a little bit, but I did finally get this off. So the spring should come up off of that now like that. And this should come out of here. And this should come out of here. So let me figure out how to get this strut out of here. I'm gonna grab it, put my feet on there and pull it, see if that comes out. If not, I'll take a look, see if there's something else going on. I scraped a lot of dirt from around the top and the bottom of this and got this, I guess it's a dust boot, off of the top of here. And now it looks like I need to unscrew this piece right here from this tube and I can slide that out of there. So I'm gonna get a pipe wrench maybe and see if that'll get that to start coming off. Looks like it's got a lot of dirt in it. And if that don't work, I'm gonna put it in a vise and turn it with a big pipe wrench or something. So the top of this shock stack has this ring on there that has some kind of tool that you put in there. But look how bad these shocks are. These things are shot. People drive around like that. That's a shame. But anyway, let me go ahead and try to put a pipe wrench or one of these tools on there to start turning that out so I can get this old no good shock out of there. I got the other end in the vise. You think it's time to replace these shocks? I was able to get this oil filter style wrench to get that started and turn that out. Not sure what kind of lubrication that is in there, but it may have been the grease from the strut failure. All right, folks, I'm getting ready to put this back on here, debating how much of this I'm going to clean up. But let's go ahead and put this back on here. Nice cleaned up plate goes on right here. Let me grab those screws. When you take these 4 bolts out, mark where they go because all 4 of them are different size. You want to put them back where they belong. So I torqued these 14 foot-pounds and torqued these to 12 foot-pounds. Not sure what they're supposed to be. I could check the torque value on the website. Let me go check real quick. So I received some interesting responses when I asked the BMW community if these tubes are supposed to have oil in them. Some people say they put oil in them to stop these from getting stuck in there and rusting. Some people say oil's in there for some heat distribution or transfer. I don't know what that means. Anyway, I'm going to put that in there and top it off with some oil and secure that nut and keep moving forward. Before you put this back together totally, clean out all the dirt and grime that has built up down in there. And there is a drain hole there. So dirt and moisture can drain out of that. So clean that up and then put your bump stop on there and the rest of your stuff. So you want to put this dust cap back on there. Put your rubber spring cushion thing in there. Put your bump stop on top of here and then lower your spring down over it. Make sure your spring sits all the way down in the perch and it's pushed up against your bump stop and your bump stop's pushed up against your seat stop. Now you got to set the top piece on there and then set your bearing on top of that. I must say I had a hard time getting this back together. Mainly because I needed a thin 22 to go down there, but I figured out 7/8 is the same, so I did have that. And I had to put a vice grip on it to hold it and turn it backwards with a, I guess it's a 6mm to get that thing down there and secure. Yeah, hex 6. This is for the Coney. Now I also had a hard time getting the spring to sit in the proper place. And as you can see, a little bit of my rubber piece is out of place right there. It's hanging up. I got to decide if I want to fool with that. But if I do, I'm going to hook the spring tool up on top of this and then under that spring. Because other than that, it was near impossible just hooking it up on these couple of springs to get this compressed enough to make this work. So it was difficult. Let me get this installed, and on the other one, I ended up bending my heat shield down on the bottom, which I really didn't want to do, but wrestling with it, it happened. Well, this thing kicked my butt. I'm gonna go take a dinner break, come back, put this in, and maybe finish that other side. I don't know, man, it's a little tougher than I expected. I'm gonna go ahead and hang this knuckle. After I hang this knuckle, I'm gonna do the control arm, put the new control arm in, And then I'm gonna put the new rotor on, the new pads, and go from there. Tapping out for the day. We'll come back in the morning. Kicking off the tinker day. Yesterday we left off with tightening this bolt on top of this control arm and noticing those bushings there are worn, so we're going to plan on getting some of those. These little end links are worn, going to get some of those. We got juice here for some reason. The ball joints feel tight, well, tight-ish. I'm gonna wipe that off, see if I can figure out where that grease is coming from. They're not like loose, so I'm not really concerned with them. Tightened up the drain bolt on the oil pan. We're supposed to be able to put oil in there in about 5-6 hours because they said wait a day. So let's go ahead and put this strut in and get it secured and keep moving forward and get ready to go on the other side and do that when I see my engine mount is out of its hole here. So I'm gonna probably lower that engine down on these mounts. I don't know of any reason to have them up right now, so let me do that and maybe tighten these mounts down and go from there. Do pay attention to what location these bolts are in that you pull out of this plate here on the bottom, because they're all different size and you want to get them back in the right hole. I got the mounts back secure, bolts on both sides. Now I'm about to, I torqued that drain bolt in as well. I'm about to put this strut in over here. We have a moment of oops. I was going to the website to order parts, mainly this bushing here on the end of the control arm. And look what I found in our box. So we already have those. I don't have to order those. I just need to remove those and install these. So let me see if I can get that off of there and get these installed. Get the piece back off of that control arm. As you can see, the arrow on the bushing is pointing away from the screw holes. So I'm gonna go find a press this out, press this in. It has even, I don't know what you want to call it, centering on both sides of this bracket here. So let's go do that. I see a press over there in the shop. I don't know if I can find the tools for it, but there it is. This should be quick and easy. Find the adapters for that. So I had the base plate here. I put a spacer catcher there. I put the part there. I put the new bushing right on top, centered on the old one. Then I put the pushing device here, and I started pumping it, and it popped, and it's going right in. So we are good to go. And I lined everything up. So we'll go down there till that thing's about 1/8 of an inch out, or 1/4 inch, and check it. Trying to make sure it's centered on both sides. Oh, it's going in a little crooked for some reason, but let's go ahead and check it. Take the pressure off of it. Not sure why I wouldn't have been going in straight. I went in a little bit too far, so I'm gonna push it through the other side a little bit, and we should be good to go. I have the control arm installed and torqued, and then I got this set screw that was broken. So I put some heat on it and some 10W40, and vice grips got it out. Yay. Okay, here's the set pin I need for the rotors. Time to get the brakes on. Time to get over here on this side. This side has the brake pad sensor, which is nice. But man, look at that. Caliper bolt is loose. Glad that didn't fall out. Let's go ahead and rip this side apart and rebuild it. Just got the second set screw out of there. This time I drilled a hole in it and I tapped a T20 in there and started working it back and forth, getting it moving tightened, then I was able to back it out. So we're gonna take a lunch break on that note and come back and keep tearing it apart. Back from lunch, guess what? Somebody cleaned the parts washer today. Hate to see that at the end of the day. I'm gonna take this caliper apart and set the bracket in the parts washer and get to work on getting the strut out, because that's what matters most. Man, this looks like the tie rod end is loose. There's a lot of space there. I'll find out shortly. So let me take these two bolts out down the bottom here and work on getting this strut out. Then we'll work on the control arm. So this is how this stuff is in here. When you go to put the new bushing into this control arm, you want to see the angle at which this thing is. So if I got the control arm pointing at 12 o'clock, this bushing is pointing about 1 o'clock. Now you can mark that if you want or something like that, but you just want to do it as best you can at that same angle, so your bushing is not stressed when it's in the car. I put together the last strut dust boot wrong. It looks like the bump stop is supposed to be snapped in this dust boot, and it's not supposed to be locked on down there. And this is how this is supposed to be together. I'm gonna hang this strut in here and then work on the control arm and the brakes and keep on moving. Doo-doo, 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 doo-doo. Oh my gosh. Oil is coming out of this weep hole, and there's no oil in the engine from the oil pan. The only place I think this oil could be coming out of, maybe the slave cylinder, or it could be input shaft seal or output shaft seal on this transmission. And it's coming out a little more and more. I guess I'll open up this panel and see if there's anything in this part of the transmission coming down the transmission to drip here, because it's had a couple of drops. I wiped that off. Let me wipe it off now and see how long it takes to come back. I was showing somebody how clean some of this stuff was under the car, and bam, there's that oil leak. All right, let's see. So here we are, folks. The brakes are done. Man, these pin bolts were stuck. I had to put some penetrant and heat on them to get them to flow, but they're good to go now. The caliper sat good. I got the wear pad notification thing on there. It's all plugged in. We're hot to trot. A little bit oil back on this thing here. Let's see how long ago that's been. And I got to put this anti-sway bar up and then get the back. But I am going to have dinner first. So let me grab what I need to do to have dinner and get back at this after dinner. Man, this parts washer has been fantastic, and the guy came today and cleaned it up. Well, I didn't know why this stuff was coming so clean, what kind of solvent they were using. But I come over here and check this out. They are using the oil eater parts washer fluid. Awesome. Microbe safe to use in existing micro colonies. Very nice. All right, I got about an hour and a half left. I think the last thing I left off with was hooking up this brake wear indicator. Next, I got to hook up the ABS line in there, connect this anti-sway bar across there, and then I can move on to the rear suspension. Whoop, whoop. Let me check, see what kind of comments I got about this leak here. If you made it this far, I trust that you found some information that was either useful or entertaining, so go ahead and hit the like button. And if you would like notification of future videos that I post, please subscribe to the channel. I appreciate your support. You can follow me on other social media apps by looking for @RobertDIY. Some form of that should bring up the other channels that I have on places like Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and so forth. If for some reason you need some more personal help, go to my website at robertdiy.com and use the phone number that I have posted there to send me a text message, or you can email me. If you have questions or comments, please make a comment below. And if you'd like to make some kind of financial contribution to what I got going on here, go to my channel and hit the more link at the end of the introduction statement, and it'll show you different ways that you can support me financially. Again, thanks for watching. I hope you have a great day. And do the right thing here and get these installed. Get the piece back off of that control arm. As you can see, the arrow on the bushing is pointing away from the screw holes. So I'm gonna go find a press this out, press this in. It has even, I don't know which one to call it, centering on both sides of this bracket here. So let's go do that. I see a press over there in the shop. I don't know if I can find the tools for it, but there it is. This should be quick and easy. Find the adapters for that. So I had the base plate here. I put a spacer catcher there. I put the part there. I put the new bushing right on top, centered on the old one. Then I put the pushing device here, and I started pumping it, and it popped, and it's going right in. So we are good to go. And I lined everything up. So we'll go down there till that thing's about 1/8 of an inch out, or 1/4 inch, and check it. Trying to make sure it's centered on both sides. Oh, it's going in a little crooked for some reason, but let's go ahead and check it. Take the pressure off of it. Not sure why I wouldn't have been going in straight. I went in a little bit too far, so I'm gonna push it through the other side a little bit, and we should be good to go. I have the control arm installed and torqued, and then I got this set screw that was broken. So I put some heat on it and some 10W40, and vice grips got it out. Yay. Okay, here's the set pin I need for the rotors. Time to get the brakes on. Time to get over here on this side. This side has the brake pad sensor, which is nice. But man, look at that. Caliper bolt almost totally. Caliper bolt is loose. Glad that didn't fall out. Let's go ahead and rip this side apart and rebuild it. Just got the second set screw out of there. This time I drilled a hole in it and I tapped a T20 in there and started working it back and forth. I ended up getting it moving tightened, then I was able to back it out. So we're gonna take a lunch break on that note and come back and come back and keep tearing it apart. Back from lunch. Guess what? Somebody cleaned the parts washer today. Hate to see that at the end of the day. I'm gonna take this caliper apart and set the bracket in the parts washer and get to work on getting this strut out, because that's what matters most. Man, this looks like the tie rod end is loose. There's a lot of space there. I'll find out shortly. So let me take these two bolts out down the bottom here and work on getting this strut out. Then we'll work on the control arm. So this is how this stuff is in here. When you go to put the new bushing into this control arm, you want to see the angle at which this thing is. So if I got the control arm pointing at 12 o'clock, this bushing is pointing about 1 o'clock. Now you can mark that if you want or something like that, but you just want to do it as best you can at that same angle, so your bushing is not stressed when it's in the car. I put together the last strut desk boot wrong. It looks like the bump stop is supposed to be snapped in this desk boot, and it's not supposed to be locked on down there. So I'll do this one right. And this is how this is supposed to be together. I'm gonna hang this strut in here and then work on the control arm and the brakes and keep on moving. Doo-doo, 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 doo-doo. Oh my gosh. Oil is coming out of this weep hole, and there's no oil in the engine from the oil pan. The only place I think this oil could be coming out of, maybe the slave cylinder, or it could be input shaft seal or output shaft seal on this transmission. And it's coming out a little more and more. I guess I'll open up this panel and see if there's anything in this part of the transmission coming down the transmission to drip here, because it's had a couple of drops. I wiped that off. Let me wipe it off now and see how long it takes to come back. I was showing somebody how clean some of this stuff was under the car, and bam, there's that oil leak. All right, let's see. So here we are, folks. The brakes are done. Man, these pin bolts were stuck. I had to put some penetrant and heat on them to get them to flow, but they're good to go now. The caliper sat good. I got the wear pad notification thing on there. It's all plugged in. We're hot to trot. A little bit oil back on this thing here. Let's see how long ago that's been. And I got to put this anti-sway bar up and then get the back. But I am going to have dinner first. So let me grab what I need to do to have dinner and get back at this after dinner. Man, this parts washer has been fantastic, and the guy came today and cleaned it up. Well, I didn't know why this stuff was coming so clean, what kind of solvent they were using. But I come over here and check this out. They are using the oil eater parts washer fluid. Awesome. Microbe safe. Safe to use in existing micro colonies. Very nice. All right, I got about an hour and a half left. I think the last thing I left off with was hooking up this brake wear indicator. Next, I got to hook up the ABS line in there, connect this anti-sway bar across there, and then I can move on to the rear suspension. Whoop, whoop. Let me check, see what kind of comments I got about this leak here. If you made it this far, I trust that you found some information that was either useful or entertaining, so go ahead and hit the like button. And if you would like notification of future videos that I post, please subscribe to the channel. I appreciate your support. You can follow me on other social media apps by looking for @RobertDIY. Some form of that should bring up the other channels that I have on places like Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and so forth. If for some reason you need some more personal help Go to my website at robertdiy.com and use the phone number that I have posted there to send me a text message, or you can email me. If you have questions or comments, please make a comment below. And if you'd like to make some kind of financial contribution to what I got going on here, go to my channel and hit the more link at the end of the introduction statement, and it'll show you different ways that you can support me financially. Again, thanks for watching. I hope you have a great day.